I strongly believe one of the reasons that psychedelics remain illegal to this day is they have the power to turn warriors into peacemakers.
Well, I think psychedelics are really the only solution for potential peace in the Middle East.
If I could get Vladimir Putin and Zelensky and no shit do an Ibogaine retreat or a medicine retreat, the war would be over.
The whole point of this human experience is evolution and growth and expansion.
I really learned that I don't need a building with a dude wearing a cape telling me what God has to say or forgiving me. The person I dislike the most on this planet, God loves as much as he loves me.
They put fluoride in the water to calcify your third eye.
Yeah,
they spray the soil with glyphosate to mess up the connection between your gut and your brain.
You've forgotten who you are, or you forgot about God or source for a little bit, doesn't mean it's not there.
Welcome back to the Jeremy Awakens podcast. Today, we have a fucking legend in the house, y'all. He is a true warrior in every sense of the word, not just on the battlefield, but in every area of life. He's walked through the fire, served with honor, is now on a mission to heal and awaken others in the most powerful, transformational way. Whiz Buckley is a decorated fighter pilot, author, entrepreneur, and founder of No Fallen Heroes, a movement dedicated to ending veteran suicide and bringing the power of psychedelic healing to those who have served our country. But beyond his military career, Whiz is a spiritual warrior, a heart-centered leader, an incredible husband and father, and a man who's turned his pain into purpose. His work bridges the gap between elite performance and inner healing, showing that true strength is found not just in war, but in vulnerability, integration, and love.
Man, I'm done. I can end on that high note. It can only go downhill from there. Wow. Thanks for that, man. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me.
Really, really grateful to have you back here, man. Round two. And, you know, a lot has happened in the world in the last couple years.
My God. Yeah. No kidding. Horror. A lot of horror, you know. Yeah. Obviously, Israel, Eastern Europe. Just war, man. What's the point? You know, I strongly believe one of the reasons that psychedelics remain illegal to this day is they have the power to turn warriors into peacemakers. I've seen knuckle-dragging, meat-eating killers show up to a retreat, and when they leave, that thought revolts them, right? So I guarantee you the military-industrial complex doesn't like healed warriors, right? Now, don't get me wrong. I know how to be violent if I need to. You know, you attack my family or my friends or something like that, you know, we'll have some serious problems. But in general, healing warriors is going to make the world a better place. It can't not, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think psychedelics are really the only solution for potential peace in the Middle East, right? There's so much generational trauma, and I think it's going to take one of these medicines, whether it's Ibogaine, ayahuasca, psilocybin, to really help cultivate that compassion and connection with one another. And they're already actually doing this a little bit with ayahuasca. Palestinians and Israelis sitting in ceremony together.
I love it.
Being able to actually see the person from a completely different lens and perspective.
Correct.
And I think you pretty much just said it. Like, this is why psychedelics and plant medicine are still a Schedule I drug in America, because they're very aware. The healthcare companies, pharmaceutical companies, they're very aware that these medicines provide so much healing, and that once you actually access them and you realize that you have the potential to become your own healer, your own doctor, your own shaman, you're no longer going to need to pop these pharmaceutical drugs that are just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound.
Sadly, there's no money in healing, right? So if you're big pharma, and you're like, wait a minute, this guy sat with Ibogaine once and never drank again, or, you know, I've helped one of our Navy SEALs was on 15 meds, 5 to wake up, 5 for lunch, 5 to go to bed. He hasn't taken a single medication in 4 years. So if you're big pharma, this is pretty threatening, right? Because they have customers. They don't want healed humans. But back to your initial point, and I'm not joking when I say this, and of course you would understand this, but a lot of people who don't having sat with the medicine, get this. I'm like, if I could get Vladimir Putin and Zelensky and no shit do an Ibogaine retreat or a medicine retreat, the war would be over. And I'm not joking. I'm not being flippant when I say that. It's the truth. It is the God's honest truth. The definition of the Schedule 1 drug just always makes my skin crawl. No therapeutic use and a high risk of addiction. That's a cigarette and that's alcohol. 100% legal, right? But these are a Schedule 1 drug, right? Even though it was anti-addictive, Ibogaine destroyed alcohol in my life. Up to a year, if I smelled or looked at alcohol, it made me physically ill. I dry heave. Now, I can have a glass of wine with my steak or, with my pasta, but old Whiz, a glass of wine was the bottle, or probably 2 or 3. So it more or less destroyed alcohol. So it's anti-addictive. And then sitting with the medicines has been the most therapeutic thing I've ever done in my life. Just saved and changed my life, a complete system reset. So it's sad to say in our country and in this world that, follow the money. There's no money in this, right? And I keep reminding people that healing is free, right? God, source, divine, truth, creator, whichever word you want to use. I choose out of those words, God. Put these things on this planet for us to heal for free, right? So you can't patent a root. You can't trademark a fungus, even though I know Big Pharma is going to try, right? Wait, so Whiz got his ass kicked for 12 to 14 hours. Let's change a molecule and call it Ibogaine and charge 20 grand, a year for it type of thing. So always remember that healing's free. It has been since, the first, the stoned ape theory, right? The apes kind of, what are these mushrooms? And all of a sudden their front cortex blew out and here you and I are. So healing's free. But, with all the efforts you're doing, which I salute you for, bro, with your microdosing and everything like that, we're getting there. It's a journey, right? So
it's so wild though when you actually frame it like that. Imagine, we were just talking about this with Jason, but doctors go to 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency, and in that 7-year period, they learn less than 10 hours of nutritional content. That nutritional content that they're learning is complete outdated bullshit.
Correct.
Right? And then they're not taught about the power of sun, nature, grounding to the earth,
Correct.
Nutrition, breath work, all of these medicines that are actually free. And if these were the medicines that were prescribed by doctors, then their offices would be empty because people wouldn't need
Correct. Yeah.
the healing that they're trying to provide, which isn't really healing.
Yeah.
Right? It's just masking symptoms rather than addressing the root cause. And in that process, it's disempowering people. Mm-hmm. That's the worst thing that I think the healthcare system in America does, is it programs people to believe that they need to constantly chase externally
outside of them,
to heal themselves. When in reality, the beautiful thing about plant medicine is that it actually shows you that all of the answers are already inside. You just need to reconnect to your divinity and your intuition because you already know what to do.
One of my guides, this sticks with me every day. She said, Matthew, you are the medicine, right? And more retreats that I go on, the less and less medicine I actually do. It's not needed, right? I got blasted with the Ibogaine, but as it's go on, that really hit me. She's like, you are the medicine. And I'll probably take a lot of heat from some of the folks on social media for this, but after, when you and I talked last time, stereotypical Catholic, altar boy, all that type of stuff. And then after my sister was killed by a drunk driver, I'm like, the fuck? Ain't no God, man. And I sexually abused as a kid. I'm like, and then all the military trauma and stuff like that. So I could not have been more separated from God in my life. And then this medicine just reconnected me with my father, my sister, and God, right? So I started backfilling things I should have known as a kid. But I remember doing a lot of research on the Nag Hammadi, texts that were found in Egypt in 1945. I'm fascinated with the Gospels that didn't make it in the Bible. And why didn't they make it in? Because the Gospel of Thomas talks about a Jesus who talked about inside. The kingdom of heaven is within you. The kingdom of God is within you. If you bring forward what is within you, what is it within you will save you. If you don't bring forward what is within you, what is within you will, kill you, type of thing. So I'm kind of relearning some spiritual things, and the church and power, and whether most organized religions inserted themselves between you and what made you, and there is no separation. I know in the Catholic Church, it's almost like a chain of command, right? Well, you got a priest, then you got a bishop, you got a cardinal, and then the Pope, and then Jesus, and then God. That's the chain of command, right? I'm a military guy. You got to follow the chain of command. No. Plant medicine evaporated that ego, right? Because separation is sin, right? In my opinion. And what's ego stand for? Edge God out. So once you dissolve that ego and you are one with source, I love people, go to, to the temple or mass and stuff like that. God bless you. I love it. But I really learned that I don't need a building with a dude wearing a cape telling me what God has to say, or forgiving me, right?
Yeah.
As a Catholic, you got to go to confession. I go sit in a room and tell some guy who I barely know all the bad stuff I've done. Man, you can if you want, but God, source, whatever, is the ultimate source of forgiveness. There's a great book I started reading called A Course in Miracles.
I've heard a lot about this.
Oh my God, it's unbelievable. But in a section on forgiveness, they're like, forgiveness is an unknown concept in heaven because there's no need for it. That's your natural state. When I sat with Ibogaine for the first time, and I break it up into halves. First half was a tour. I got home and I told Susie, I'm like, man, I never have to travel again. She's like, why? I'm like, I saw everything. I saw absolutely everything. But in the second half, when I, up in space and just comfortable space, not like 2001: A Space Odyssey, getting sucked out, and all of a sudden that biggest, brightest, whitest light, just emanating love and forgiveness and compassion, and just the most incredible feeling I've ever felt. I remember falling to my knees and God and me just saying, I'm awful. I'm a horrible husband. I'm a horrible father. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drugs. It doesn't get any worse than me. And there was never any words. I understood everything. There was, God didn't have a mouth. God was this just infinite love, and he just, not that he had a hand, but just all of that stuff disappeared. Just with I was begging for forgiveness, and it was not that God can shrug. It was like, you have it.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget when he said, Matthew, I don't make imperfect things. I can take care of all that crap.
Yeah.
You are perfect. I don't make imperfect things. Now get up and let's go. Let me show you what we can do together. And
that was your first Ibogaine.
That was the
experience.
first, yeah.
4 years ago?
My 4-year anniversary is coming up. Isn't it incredible? I remember it's my birthday. It's my rebirthday. Yeah. Every May 20th of every year, I text all the guys who sat in the ceremony. Robert Gallery, you're a Raiders fan. Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor. Jared Taylor from Black Rifle Coffee, and another Navy SEAL. I mean, we text each other each week.
That's a powerhouse of a group of humans.
You want to talk about, it's funny, the Disney movie, The Incredibles, we called ourselves the Unusuals. We were like, as we were getting ready to leave this retreat, and we're all different healed human beings. Because as you know, when you sit in ceremony with strangers, when you're done, ain't no strangers, man. Yeah. We're the same piece of cosmic stardust, and we are all one.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on our 4-year anniversary.
Are you ready to feel limitless in 2025? I'm talking limitless physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, sexually, financially. This is your sign to try out microdosing for 30 days. We have a very special opportunity for podcast listeners. You can get started for only $222. This includes the medicine being shipped to you, the highest quality, fair trade, organic, sustainably sourced microdoses in the world at your doorstep. And you also get access to live group coaching calls with me, our private community. This is your sign to take ownership of your life in 2025. If you're ready, hit the link in the description, and I can't wait to see you on the inside.
Yeah. We're coming up on our 4-year anniversary, and I remember it like it was yesterday, man. Isn't it weird? Like with dreams, you wake up 10 minutes later, like that was a cool dream. Let me remember it, and it just like a cloud. It goes. I remember, it was reality for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're coming up on our 4-year anniversary.
That'd be cool for you guys to do a little reunion, especially for if you don't do it this year, do it for the 5-year and do like a panel podcast.
It's not a bad idea. We want to do a knock the rust off. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of people ask me that, like, can you be one and done? I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
A lot of people sit with the medicine or one and done, but and as you would know, in the healing space, I was at a retreat. Daniel Carcillo, our brother Daniel, he opened a place up in Oregon called Experience Onward. So we had a couple heroes sitting in ceremony up there. So I went up there with Daniel, and then 2 weeks ago I was up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, helping 15 veterans sit in ceremony.
Wow,
and as
Tulsa.
you know, outside it's called Rising Ridge. It's a spiritual retreat. Guy's a former Navy senior chief, horrific combat experience, and on this retreat, man, there were amputees. There were some hurting people, and I love it, man. It's like being a parent on, Christmas Eve, like sitting there looking at the gifts, like, oh, I can't wait for everybody to come downstairs and open their presents. Because when you show up at these retreats, all these, they're veterans. These are meat-eating killer guys, and they don't necessarily know each other. They saw each other on Zoom calls and briefing calls. But to see that, and then 3.5 days later, 3 days later, these guys are hugging and crying and best friends. It's just, I can't put into words.
I wanna rewind, because there's going to be people watching and listening to this that didn't catch our first conversation, which we'll actually link in the show notes.
Yeah.
Definitely check that out. But I want to just take a step back to what actually facilitated this path for you, right? Your time as a fighter pilot, I think it was 15 years?
15, yeah.
Right? And some of the other things that happened throughout your life that helped be a catalyst for where you're at now, what led you to the medicine, which eventually actually saved your life and connected you to this beautiful mission that you're on, just to provide a little bit more context.
Good point. Great point. Let me lead with this, because it's going to sound at various times like a shit show. But I'm at the point in my healing in my life where I can say this: I'm grateful for my suffering. I can find gratitude in my suffering, because it brought me here, right? Talking to you, man. So typical Irish Catholic kid, South Jersey, South Philadelphia, go Eagles. And lost my sister Monica to a drunk driver at 19. And she was in the middle of us 6 kids. And that was a hand grenade. I'll never forget the sound of my dad getting my older brother. So it was my older brother and my sister Marilyn and Monica. They were all at Villanova. They were all at a fraternity party. And my brother and my sister Marilyn said, hey, we're going back to campus. Do you want to ride? And Monica said, no, I'm going to go with these guys. Yeah. So I was just going into high school, which is a tough time for a young man anyway, let alone for that to have happened. And then my parents were done. My dad was done. In between my high school, St. Augustine Prep, all boys Catholic high school. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I played sports, so I'd miss the bus. So my dad would pick me up after school. And in between St. Augustine Prep and my home was the cemetery. And he got out of the car every day. And he cried every day at her grave. It was brutal. And I remember, fast forward years later, I was sitting on the couch with my dad, and my boy Matthew and Jack were playing, and he knew immediately what I was talking about, because I just kind of looked at him and I said, how'd you do it? And he's like, when they lowered Monica into the ground, I wanted to jump in there with her. But I had you. And, so that was tough. He died getting on a treadmill at the age of 65 in the garage. Came home from work. They had a little workout stuff in the garage, and my mom would make dinners. He'd go for a run on the treadmill, and she's like, been a while, and she went out there, and he was gone. 65, strong as an ox.
What was the cause of death?
Widowmaker. I mean, he actually broke if you fall, you put your hands out. He broke his nose, which means he was gone before, just instantaneously.
Wow.
So after that type of childhood trauma, what sounds like a good idea? Going in the military. Let's go. So you don't take off your childhood trauma, right? You just kind of compartmentalize, you push it down.
Yeah.
And then in 15 years of flying fighters, I lost 16 buddies. Not a single combat loss. Bad weather, bad decisions, mechanical issues, stupidity. But not a single combat loss, but doesn't make them any less traumatic, right? And then along the way, I lost 4 F-18 brothers to suicide, including a groomsman in my wedding, Captain Eric Swenson, Marine, fighter pilot, 5 kids. I thought we were best friends, call me, man. Or maybe I should have reached it. What do you do, right? So he checked out. And that was about 4 years ago. And I looked at Susie and I said, not that I quote scripture too often, but it'll be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And I had done pretty good trading and doing some other stuff on the side. And I said, let's start a foundation.
Yeah.
Let's start a foundation to try and end veteran suicide. Because at the time, Uncle Sam's numbers was 17 to 22. 17 to 22 veterans were checking out by their own hands.
Committing suicide every day.
Every day.
That's an absurd number, bro.
I hate putting this out to the universe, but let me put this in perspective. Could you imagine if 22 kids, not once a year, every day, 22 kids were getting murdered in a school? Even the gun nuts in this country would freak the fuck out and do something about it. But since it's the veteran community, it's thank you for your service, and I'm going to go over here now because I don't know what to do to help you, right? I didn't either. But God said, start a foundation, Matthew, and figure it out. Okay.
So you gave 15 years of service. What year was your final year?
2006. Oh, thank you for asking this.
Yeah.
I missed a middle chunk here going to Wall Street.
You
Good catch, man.
You skipped the 15 years.
Because that sucked too. Yeah, great catch, man. So you don't join the Navy to get rich. You don't join the military to get rich. Duh. See the world and fly airplanes and do cool things. So I taught myself how to trade stocks and options in the background. And I'm pretty old, so this was before Al Gore invented the internet, right? So I used to have to read books on this stuff, right? So I did pretty good because I started applying everything I was learning as a fighter pilot to my trading, because technically trading is a form of combat, right? Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to get their ass handed to it. So I started using all the things I was flying a fighter jet, having a strategy, implementing tactics, contingency planning. Hey, before I get into a position, I know when I'm exiting either for max profit or minimum loss, right? I'm not even into it yet, right? So I applied all of that stuff, and I popped up on the radar of a trading firm in Chicago. Let me back up before that. Why'd I have to focus on trading? I forgot this part too. In 2000, like a lemming, I followed all the other guys out of the military to go be a rich airline pilot. .com, boom, everything was going great. I'm going to go be a rich airline pilot. And I won the lottery, because winning the lottery was go be a rich airline pilot, but still fly fighters in the reserves or the Air Guard or on the weekends. So I got hired, by a F-18 squadron at Naval Air Station Fort Worth. And I got hired by FedEx, and I was flying fighters in Fort Worth. Didn't get any better than that. But I hated FedEx, man. I was having to commute from Fort Worth up to Memphis, to make my midnight to 8 a.m. trip, flying 4 legs, middle of the night and landing as the sun comes up in, Scottsdale, and trying to sleep during the day. I was miserable, man. I remember coming back from a FedEx trip, and I'm in the ready room of our fighter squadron, and I'm like, exhausted, passing out, and one of my buddies, I think it was Nips was like, dude, here's my cell phone. I'm sitting reserve for American. If they call you, let them know you're me, and you'll be there in like 2 hours. He was going to go do a dogfight and get paid for the Navy flying Hornets while he was double dipping with American. I'm like, son of a bitch. So I quit FedEx, and I went to American. Morning of September 11th, 2001, I'm packing. I'm in our master bedroom packing, and Susie comes in holding Matthew. Like, you better come look at the TV. An airplane hit the World Trade Center. I'm like, I'm busy, woman. Small airplane, bad weather. She's like, all right, I haven't seen that look before. So went out and, saw what everybody else saw. Beautiful day in New York City, not a cloud in the sky. Big fucking smoking hole. And I'm standing there going through my mental aviation checklist of how that could have happened. Boom. Next plane hits. I know we're under attack. Immediately knew we were under attack. I ran into the bedroom. I still have it in my closet in plastic. My American Airlines uniform in plastic from the cleaners. Slid that out of the way, and I threw on my flight suit. Put on my boots. Didn't even tie them. I had an old 89 Porsche, and I broke the land speed record getting out the Naval Air Station Fort Worth. Just as they went to a combat posture, ThreatCon Delta, they closed the air station. Me and a fellow F-18, another Gruff, John McGrath, call sign Gruff, he made it out to the squadron. Dude, you and me. It was like Lexington and Concord, in the Revolutionary War. Called down to maintenance. I said, Chief, what do you got? He's like, we have 4 jets. I said, get 2 of them fueled, and what do we got? Bullets. I said, put bullets in the nose. And then the other phone rang, and next to us was an F-16 squadron, Air Force Reserve. And let me slam my Air Force brothers and sisters. They're rich. They got money. They're tied into NORAD, the North American Air Defense, and it was the general. Whiz, what do you got? I'm like, it's me and Gruff. He said, get over here. I got 4 of the F-16 guys made it out here. We're going to brief, and we're going to get airborne and fly a combat air patrol. So Gruff and I ran over to their command post. And as we're briefing, he's like, all right, we'll get you some missiles. We got missiles. You can borrow, boom, fucking Pentagon gets hit. I'm like, we're in this command post. I'm like, we got to get airborne. Let's fucking go. We got to go. Now they got armed and, fueled first. So they actually got airborne. And then Gruff and I went to the end of the runway, waiting for them to land. And then we get airborne. But by the time they hit bingo fuel, they were out of gas. Everything had already landed. So that was unbelievable moment in my life. Sitting at the hold short of the runway, armed, getting ready to shoot down an airliner full of Americans, potentially shooting down an airliner flown by one of my best friends. I mean, out of the 17 guys in that reserve squadron, 15 of them were flying that day in the front of an airliner. So imagine being ordered to do something like that. I forget that night. I got home just drenched in sweat and passed out on the couch. But when I went into the squadron the next day, I had never seen something like this. On the ready room table, there was an ATO, Air Tasking Order.
Okay.
The only time I've seen an ATO was in the Persian Gulf. It's your rules of engagement. Who can you shoot, when? This is your battle book.
Right.
This was an ATO for the United States of America. It was like a movie. Like I'm reading, the first paragraph. 25-mile radius of D.C. and New York City is a free fire zone. If it flies, kill it. No question. I'm like, oh my God.
And how shortly after 9/11 was this?
This was the next day. This is September 12th.
So, wow.
Yeah. So I bring that up because, and here's a really funny story, man. I bring that up because September 14th, remember each day after the attacks, the FAA is like, we're trying to open the airspace. Didn't. Tomorrow we'll try it. Didn't. So Gruff and I actually got paired. We were sitting alert now. You'd sit like a 4-hour alert in the ready room with your gear on, and we got scrambled on September 14th. Like, hey, somebody's airborne and shouldn't be. So we run out to the airplanes. I take off out of Fort Worth. You can only go supersonic if you're off the coast, 30 miles at least, or like in the middle of the deserts in our training ranges. You can't go, here I am over South Texas I'm supersonic at a couple hundred feet, man. Boom! Live missiles. Turned out it was some granddad with his grandson, thought the airspace was open that day, and he got airborne out of Waco. And down in Crawford, Texas was President Bush's ranch, and it was prohibited airspace. I think they actually had like an airborne White House down there. So we had to go intercept this guy. And man, I was like a dog on the kitchen floor. I am hauling ass, and this guy, lock him up on the radar, he's doing like 80 miles an hour. I'm doing like 800, right? So I got to put my speed brake out, throttles to idle. I'm pulling G's around this guy, and I get slow enough to where he's like, holy shit, there's a fighter jet next to me, and he ends up landing in a grass strip. And I bring this up because, and we flying home, I'm talking to the controllers. They're like, you can fly wherever you want. There's like you and like 2 other airplanes in the whole United States airborne right now. I'm like, oh, okay. We flew right over DFW, which you've been to DFW. Yeah. It's the Battle of Britain every second. there was airliners scattered everywhere. Just so creepy. I'm like flying over it at like 100 feet. So I land and I'm in the ready room in the squadron, and I'm of course telling the story to all my bros. Like, oh my God, my phone rings, and hey, First Officer Buckley. I'm like, yeah, this is Steve from American Airlines. I'm like, okay. I thought it was a joke, somebody, one of my buddies. He's like, all right, well, you have your first trip tomorrow. I'm like, are you high? I'm like, dude, it's over with. What are you talking about my first trip tomorrow? Because I'm a new hire. This is my first flight. I'm like, it's over with, man.
Yeah.
I don't even think American's going to survive. And he's like, well, are you refusing your trip? Meaning we'll fire you. I'm like, all right, I'll be there, bro. So September 15th, I go out to DFW. I get to the jet, and there's barely anybody in the airport. I'm like, I get to the jet, my instructor shows up. He's like, dude, I wasn't even going to show up. You're here? I'm like, oh, that's nice. So we get airborne from DFW to fly down here to Miami, and it had like 30 people on the plane, and they were all American Airlines employees, from Miami who got stuck in DFW. But we're flying down, and the captain's like, oh man, we're screwed. It's over with. I'm like, dude, you got like 20 years at this airline. I got a week, dude. I'm sitting right here. He's like, yeah, I got furloughed on the road in the 90s. I was on a trip. I landed in Topeka, and crew scheduling called, and, they didn't even give me a ride home. But, he's like, I knew the gate agent, and she got me a ticket, and I got to go home. Isn't that bullshit? I'm like, yeah. We land down in Miami. We go to the DoubleTree, like the crew hotel, and I see the captain over there on his cell phone, and I'm checking into my room and get my room key, and he hangs up his phone. He comes up to me. He's like, you're not going to believe this. I'm like, try me. That was crew scheduling. I need to take your ID. You're furloughed. So I flew one flight for American Airlines and then lost my job. I bring that up because, I gave myself a half a day of pity. Like, I just lost my job, my health care, going to be no rich airline pilot. And then seeing on TV people still at ground zero. Have you seen my dad? Have you seen my husband? Get over yourself, dude. Get the fuck up. It ain't that bad. Yeah. So I started focusing on my trading full time. I can pay the fucking mortgage, man. Kids need to eat, and so that's when I popped up on the radar of that Wall Street firm up in Chicago. And he said, what do you do? I said, well, I just kind of treat it like combat and apply what I learned flying a fighter jet. And they said, come on up here. So they went mafia on me. They made me an offer I couldn't refuse, and I went up there. I was still flying for the reserves part-time, and then we moved to Chicago. And I bring that up because going from a fighter squadron where you trust the men and women in that organization with your life, or they're simply not part of that organization, to a Wall Street firm where I couldn't trust somebody to watch my wallet when I went to the bathroom for 5 minutes. Just a brutal environment. There were guys that would push their own mother in front of a bus for $1. And I'm not joking. They probably would. Horrible environment. To go from having a mission, discipline, camaraderie, a brotherhood, I die for you if needed, my brother. I'm right here, to that type of thing. That fucking sucked. So I started getting even more disconnected from me. God is definitely disconnected after everything that had been going on. Found drugs, or drugs found me, because that's that type of environment, man. The Wolf of Wall Street type of shit. So that was bad. That was definitely some dark nights of the soul.
This is like early 2002.
05 to 09-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what substances were you using most?
Coke. It was a horror.
Yeah.
Coke.
And usually alcohol pairs.
Oh my
well
God,
with cocaine,
no, man.
Right?
Well, Friday, market closed, go out drinking right around the Board of Trade, and the drinking results in, hitting the head with the guys. What a horror. But again, I can look at old pictures and look at that guy and go, man, I'm here today.
Yeah.
I made it.
Yeah.
But very, very dark nights of the soul. Moved down here because Susie, my beautiful bride's from Boca. I'm like, let's go to Boca. Chicago, I'm a beach guy. I'm a Navy guy. I need ocean, sand, and surf and sun. So we moved down here, and I still had a lot of those bad habits. And I became the guy. I should be on a billboard on I-95 coming into the state. Like, don't be this guy. I was 40-ish, raging midlife crisis. Drugs, bad personal decisions. I stepped out of my marriage, and it was ugly. And I ended up moving out and like living by myself in Fort Lauderdale. And got my wife is a saint.
Yeah,
she's a saint. But I remember laying on the on the bathroom floor one night by myself. The only reason I'm here is my kids and Susie, just through, just seeing them.
yeah.
I said, you gotta, get up. You can't leave. And I felt something in there, like there was something I couldn't. It would have been so easy to check out, man. I didn't, obviously, thank God. But around that time, that's when my brother Swede checked out, and I said, man, maybe he was having all the problems I were. Maybe all the brothers I've lost. I was going to be one of the 17. I was going to be one of the 22.
Yeah.
And I said, let me flip that. Let me roll inverted, and let me be the guy that's going to stop the 22, or to help the 22. So that's when Susie, who has the patience of Job, we reconnected, and that's when I said, let's start a foundation. But how do you keep a veteran from killing himself? I was throwing stuff up on the whiteboard, man. Help them pay the rent, buy a suit, resume, help them write their resume. I was lost. And that's when a buddy of mine said, hey, man, there's these Navy SEALs and Special Forces guys that go down to Mexico and they do psychedelic assisted therapy. There's a really cool group going in a couple weeks. Would you want to go? And I said, man, go to Mexico for a weekend and do drugs with Navy SEALs? Fucking sounds great.
Yeah.
No clue. No clue
what you were getting into.
Oh my God.
Different types of drugs.
Exactly. Well, so that was me at the time, right? Drugs with Navy SEALs? Absolutely learned. Ain't drugs. They're actually medicine. So that's when, went down and did Ibogaine for the first time. So Iboga's the most powerful psychedelic on the planet. It's root bark from Gabon, Africa, Central West Africa.
Yes.
Some people think it's
Gabon.
the tree of knowledge. And it's got 13 alkaloids in it, and one of the alkaloids is called Ibogaine. So we pull that alkaloid out because it's very good for addiction and also traumatic brain injury. We had a team guy. He showed me his brain scans. He was a breacher, door, explosive. His brain scans from the VA were dark and black and gray, and 3 months after the Ibogaine, it was white. The gray and the white matter was completely clear. Right. So after that retreat, I got home and I said, this is how we're going to end veteran suicide. So the No Fallen Heroes Foundation, we give grants to veterans, first responders too. I had a Marine buddy who he was a first responder down here in Miami. He said, Whiz, my 20 years in the Marine were a joke compared to trauma down here, what people can do to a child, to each other. He's like, it was a horror. So we help veterans, first responders, and family members because they serve too. Gold Star, moms, dads, wives, husbands, and then my beautiful bride who served because she had to put up with me being lost. So 2 months after I got back, and it's work, as I'm preaching to the choir, but folks, this is work.
Yeah.
You're going to, at least with my experiences, God, source, scrub. It was a scrub. It was a Control-Alt-Delete. Here's your clean piece of paper. What you do with that clean piece of paper when you get home is on you.
Yeah.
You go back to some of the things that made you sick, you're in for a dogfight.
Yeah.
I bring that up because when I got home, Susie, get up. Let's fucking go. Life is great. She's like, what are you doing in the yard hugging that tree? I'm like, look at the fucking tree. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She's like, oh my God, who stole, what happened to my husband? So the first 30 days, we call it the pink cloud phase. I mean, you're just, with Ibogaine, the magic window they call it is about 4 to 6 weeks of just, you're wide open, man. New synapses are growing. Other ones damaged are being regrown. So you're in a sweet spot. Then the next 30 days were a little tough because Susie wasn't getting up, right? In my opinion. I'm like, why are you still kind of sad? She's like, well, yay for you. What about me? I'd pull off a 95 at the exit ramp and there's a guy homeless. I'm him. I feel it today, but at that moment, I'm like, my God, that's me. There, but for the grace of God, that's me. I'm a starving kid in fucking Rwanda. I'm that homeless guy. We are all one. So the middle 30 to 60 days was tough.
Yeah.
Why is there war? Why is there poverty? Why isn't that guy? And I was that guy that I'm like, I have fucking $100, dude, here. And holy shit, I'm like, I was almost never that guy.
Yeah.
Now I am that guy because I know that's me. So the middle 30 to 60 was a challenge. And then the 60 to 90, I found my cruise altitude, right? And around that time, Susie's like, you know what? Maybe the medicine, and you know this. There are so many phrases that I use now that 5 years ago, Whiz, if I heard me talk like this, I'd kick my own ass, right?
Yeah.
And one of them is the medicine calls to you. And Susie said, you know what? I think I'm there.
You got to answer that call.
She did. I'm so proud of her. Here's what, you know what, man, I have to share this with you because she eventually shared with me after, when I went to sit with the medicine the first time, she was terrified. So we actually at our foundation, let me fast forward. We have a Healing Together manual and program for this reason. Because when I went to go, she was terrified. What if this medicine makes him realize he doesn't love me? What if she's like, I can tell you this now, but it was an absolute horror. I was trying to hold space or whatever for you, but she's like, I was so sad. I was so worried. I'm like, oh my God, I love you. Every time I saw you, you were angelic. She's like, oh. When she went to go sit with the medicine, I was terrified. I was like, is she going to realize what a piece of shit I was for that long? So I got the reciprocal. But but healed me, released it a little bit. Like, if that's what's supposed to happen, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Exactly.
And I have faith.
Yeah.
And of course, she came home, and we've never been, a better couple and parents and human beings. So that was a whew moment, but I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So we actually, at our foundation, we have hey, if your loved one's going, we're going to give you a guide and a little bit of a briefing and how to support them and everything, and how to deal with them when they get back, right? Because it is a
that integration process that you're speaking about is everything, because you probably know of people that have done ayahuasca or some other sort of plant medicine dozens of times, but their life is still in shambles.
Amen. Yeah.
And that's because they haven't actually taken the lessons and the divine downloads from the medicine and integrated them in their day-to-day life. And that's actually the work. But we live in a society that is programmed to chase shortcuts and just Band-Aids. But plant medicine is definitely not a shortcut, okay? It's going to give you a lot of clear lessons. It's going to give you exactly what you need to see and what you need to hear. And now it's up to you to actually take action. But a lot of people lack that aspect. And that's why it's so important.
They don't want to put in the work. I'll never forget the first morning after Ibogaine. I was like the first kid down, like Christmas morning. I'm like, I'm healed. I'm running around, And my guide, she's like, okay, Whiz, throttle back. And both her and the medical director, Doc Martine, great dude, they both looked at me. They're like, Whiz, this is great. 5%. 5%'s the medicine. 5%'s here. 95%'s when you get home. I'm like, that sounds stupid. I think they were wrong. I think it was like 1% was the medicine. 99% was what you do with it when you get home.
Yeah.
I couldn't sit. People are like, do you meditate? I'm like, I couldn't sit still for 30 seconds, man. Now I put on my playlist from the medicine retreat, and within 0.02 seconds, I'm in the zone, right? So you nailed it, man. You have got to do the work. This isn't a magic pill. This isn't it isn't fun. It isn't recreational. But to your point, and it's funny that I did Ibogaine first, right? Because I didn't know shit about psychedelics. So when I got home, I'd be talking to people. They're like, "Oh wow, yeah, well I do." I'm like, "Oh cool." I haven't sat with that. They're like, "Yeah, I'm going to sit for my 40th time." I'm like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
Because I'm associating my 12 to 14 hour. I could barely move, and then I did research on all the different medicines. But I'm like, but a lot of you nailed it, man. Because a lot of people really don't. Everything's within you. Right. Another saying maybe attributed to the Gospel of Thomas is, "I didn't come here to save you. I came here to remind you of who you are." To knock the funk off and show you who you truly are. Right. So people don't recognize that. Well, maybe I need to go hit the medicine again, and I'll get another. There's always more layers, right?
Yeah,
I get that.
course.
I've sat with the medicine. We should talk about the second Iboga medicine journey, because that was Top Gun. But you got to put in the work, whether it's microdosing or a heroic dose or whatever. Otherwise, it was just an experience.
Exactly. And it's cool to have experiences too.
Sure.
But if you actually want to create lifelong transformation, you need to implement the day-to-day actions that align with your highest self.
Correct.
So I think it's really important just to also preface and frame this from the perspective of the current model that is in place for veterans. After they're done serving this country, putting their life on the line, they come back to their home and they're just expected to somehow integrate into normal day-to-day society, like with their family, with a normal job, etc. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
And, we've had this conversation before, but it blows my mind how little support these men and women are receiving once they're done serving our country. Like,
Correct.
If there's one group of people that we should pour massive amounts of love and support into, it's our veterans. Yet we're neglecting them. And then again, we're pretty much just trying to put Band-Aids over bullet wounds. We're giving them benzos, all of these fucking medications that are just driving more dependence, more addiction, more mental health challenges, rather than actually treating them like a human that just needs some love and support.
Amen. There's a revolving door between the VA and Big Pharma. If you can get an appointment 10 months from now to go see somebody at the VA, what's wrong with you? These things. Here's your script. Next. Now serving number 500. Next. It's a pill factory, dude. They do not focus on healing. And it breaks my heart because I'll be honest, I was, love or hate the new administration, that was the most bullish I've been on healing for veterans because J.D. Vance, at the time, Senator Vance was on Rogan. Rogan had to give him, I love Joe Rogan, man, 15-minute lecture to J.D. Vance on veterans and psychedelics. To his credit, J.D. Vance was like, man, I didn't know about this stuff. And Rogan's like, well, let me tell you. And then towards the end of that, Vance was like, well, why aren't we doing this for veterans? So I put him in all right, cool. Now he's the vice president. Then Secretary of Defense, current Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was on the Sean Ryan podcast. Sean Ryan did Ibogaine and 5-MeO DMT where I did, healed. And Pete Hegseth said, I've never done that medicine, but I have a lot of bros who have done that. And why aren't we doing this? I'm like, okay, current Secretary of Defense, pro psychedelics. And then obviously RFK Jr. Incredible clip if you search for it about him talking about his wife. He heroin addict. He had the Kennedy curse. Money, looks, name, bad heroin addict, bad alcoholic. And this beautiful clip where he says, somebody asked him about psychedelics. He said, well, I could not have been more anti-psychedelics. I thought, that sounds awful. Drugs. And then my wife took her life in 2012. And then one of my sons was just done. I was convinced he was next. And one of his close friends took him to Peru. And the next time I saw my son, as soon as I saw him, I knew I had him back. So this guy went from being throw him in jail for psychedelics to get it to our veterans psychedelics. So I'm not giving up hope, but I haven't heard. It was a lot of talk. I mean, hell, I have a tweet that RFK put out. I will reschedule Ibogaine.
Yeah.
22, tick, 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 every day. The VA secretary, I don't know him personally. He's a pastor. Sadly, most of the folks who attack my mission are some of the most religious Christians out there, right? I don't know him. I haven't heard him say anything, but I haven't heard a single word about we need to be looking into psychedelics more. I on the guy's Twitter almost once a day, I'm like, Mr. Secretary, I invite you to get out of D.C., man. Hop on a flight, come sit in ceremony. Throw on some fucking yoga pants and some boots and hold space and see.
Those are the people that need it most.
Correct,
Like,
man, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always the people who are most judgmental that are actually the ones who need it most, because it's interesting how the people who criticize you and I the most for plant medicine, mushrooms, are also probably the people who are using alcohol to numb themselves. They're probably not the most happy and healthy people in the world, right? Because if they were, then they wouldn't jump to conclusions right away. They'd actually be open to learning, expanding their mind, and having a conversation. But when you're so limited with your mental capacity, that is already an indication that this medicine would be massively beneficial for you. Because what does it do? It creates neuroplasticity. It opens up these new pathways for you to actually explore and be open-minded.
Correct.
Rather than just operating from that egoic place. And that's really what it is. And it's unfortunate.
There's a great Ram Dass quote. The freer I get, the higher I go. The higher I go, the more I see. The more I see, the less I know. The less I know, the more I'm free. When I was just up in Oklahoma helping those guys on a retreat, I told them, I said, man, the more medicine work that I do, the less I know. And that's actually a good thing. So these people that come at it from chapter and verse and this and that, I'm like, man, the more I'm exploring things, the less I know, not the more I know, right? I'm not coming from a place of super ego. Once you've had your ego, like I did with 5-MeO-DMT, disintegrated in the blink of an eye, and you become one with source, I'll remember that for the rest of my life. And dude, it doesn't get any more type A than a fighter pilot, right? There's type A and there's type A infinity, a Navy fighter pilot. But man, when you can get a guy like me to keep his ego in check, man, it's transformational. But I send those folks love. God, source divine loves the person. I don't hate anybody, but the person I dislike the most on this planet, God loves as much as he loves me. Yeah. And until you start realizing that, right? So little tangent there, but I pray the VA secretary starts waking up, man. Seriously, just come sit in ceremony. I mean,
that's probably the reason, though, Whiz, that, and it's really unfortunate. And what I would guess is that, even this MAPS trial that got denied, which is fucking ridiculous. It was MDMA for veterans, right? MDMA therapy for veterans, not just like making this stuff available for the masses, not at all, in a very super specific, intentional way. And that was honestly devastating for the industry as a whole, right? But even more than that, I think when there's so much money and power behind the pharmaceutical industry and how much weight they have in all these other industries, right? You're talking about mainstream
God, yeah.
media too,
Yeah.
right? You're talking about
Yeah.
the food supply. So much of this is dependent on the pharmaceutical industry just pumping so much fucking money into this. And they know inherently that these veterans, when they get access to MDMA or psilocybin, they are going to heal.
Correct.
And they are going to be powerful voices of light. And that is their biggest...
That's
that
a big
is-
fear.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's their biggest fear.
That's David and Goliath right there, man.
Because
isn't it?
what's after that? After it's veterans with PTSD, then it is people who have treatment-resistant depression.
Correct.
Then we have all these kids who are being diagnosed with ADHD, who are being fed methamphetamine.
Or generalized anxiety disorder or any of these things. Yep.
Anorexia. Literally, psilocybin has been
Correct.
found to be such a valuable treatment for all of these different illnesses and dysfunctions. And that's exactly why they're still illegal.
Amen. The MDMA thing, I'd like to say I was surprised, but I'm not surprised, as you know as well as I do. I mean, 10 or 11 people on the AdCom had ties to Big Pharma. I call the MDMA a successful failure. That's a NASA term, right? So Apollo 13 didn't get to the moon, but we got those 3 guys home. So they call it a successful failure. I think the MDMA thing was a successful failure because all the other folks learned from it, whether it's the publicly traded psychedelic companies, MindMed, Atai, Compass, Cybin. They're like, did you see that train wreck? Let's get our shit together. So we're going to take all the excuses out of their, what they shoot us with. So I'd call that a successful failure. The next time somebody goes up with something like that, they're not going to have too much ammo to be able to shoot at it, right? I think, shit, I forget when you and I talked first. So I spent a lot, I stopped about a year and a half ago, but was spending time in D.C., and I'll tell you why I stopped. Because a Republican congressman, who shall remain nameless, behind closed doors, Whiz, I love what you're doing. You're gonna have a problem with the big pharma and the alcohol and tobacco folks. I'm like, isn't that your fucking job? What do you mean I'm gonna have a problem with them? So it just that was maddening to me. For him to, it was behind closed doors, so he knew he could kind of get away with it. But I keep reminding people this is a we the people moment. This ain't coming from them down. This is a you and me up. This is a, this psychedelic revolution, the first one, I love me some mala beads and my drug rug and my hippies and stuff, but, Timothy O'Leary, let's put it in the water type of thing probably didn't go over too well, right? And of course, Nixon tied it to Vietnam and, this whole war on drugs. So that first psychedelic
Renaissance.
Yeah. This one, if we can get, not that I'm anybody special, but if the regular mom and pop walking down the street can say, man, that guy flew fucking fighters for the Navy, or Marcus Luttrell, or these first responders, or these
NFL guys.
NFL guys, Carcillo, NHL guy. If the public looks up to us for anything, well, great. Listen to us about this. Because there's only 2 possibilities. We're all full of shit. This is all a lie, right? This is all, we're making our own Scientology, whatever. Or we're telling the truth. So, and I clearly know what the answer is, but since we are telling the truth, this should be the number one thing we are focusing on. So, I told you earlier, I'm like, I have it on my calendar, man. I got a calendar reminder on April 29th, first 100 days of the presidency. That's usually the report card. Like, how did they do in the first 100 days? If I haven't heard something, I'm not that I'm super big, but I will start taking a flamethrower. I ain't no raging partisan. I hate partisans, man. If your guy or gal screws up and you can't criticize them, you're what's wrong with this country.
Yeah.
I remember the first Trump term. I forget what happened. Social media, I criticized him. I had an old squadron mate. You fucking traitor. I'm like, what did you just call me?
Yeah.
So
people get so stuck in their dogmas, bro.
Isn't it insane?
That's part of the problem. It's like the whole point of this human experience is evolution and growth and expansion. So if you learn new information, which forces you to open your mind and maybe change your opinion on a certain subject matter, that's a win. That's a win. But people are so caught up in the narrative of needing to be right, and they're so attached to this as their identity, right? Like that's identity politics has become such a big issue because people attach their identity and self-worth to being MAGA or being a woke ass left liberal, right? And like all of those stories and beliefs and narratives, it's like, okay, even if I think it's a little wrong or fucked up, I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, I'm gonna hang. Yeah.
You even saw Gavin Newsom started a podcast, right?
Oh, God.
And he's talking to Charlie. He's talking to Charlie Kirk, and Charlie Kirk's like, "Yo, man, so like, what's up with this transgender stuff?
Yeah.
Like, you're a father. My guess is, as a dad, you wouldn't want a biological male competing in a sport with your female daughter. Like, what? That seems common sense. That doesn't seem like a political issue." And Gavin Newsom's like, "I actually agree with you. I don't think it's fair." And then all the people from the left are ripping apart Gavin Newsom. Exactly. "You're a fucking traitor. How could you say that?" Yeah, and it's like this is common sense. Yeah. 2024, the fact that Trump won in such dominant fashion was just a real clear indication that people are craving normalcy. Correct. They're craving common sense. They're done with tampons in boys' bathrooms. They're done with biological men competing in women's sports. They're done with tens of millions of people illegally coming into the country.
Terrorists.
And they're done with they're done with all the mainstream media bullshit narratives. And I think humans, and especially Americans right now, are craving truth.
Well, and you know what they're really done with is the rampant government bullshit. When I saw, $1.5 million for a trans opera in Serbia, I'm like, are you fucking kidding me?
Oh my gosh.
If I had 1.5 million at the No Fallen Heroes Foundation, I could clear, a quarter to half. I would save lives. That's not alliteration. That's not bullshit. I try and make it on every retreat. There's a couple I've missed. The missed retreats, each one of those, handful of texts. Whiz, I don't want to kill myself anymore. You can't put a price on that. You can't. I mean, it's. But when I see this spending going on, and it's bullshit too, because I vote for it. It goes to that not NGO. My wife works there, who makes $5 million a year, and then they donate to my campaign. It's a cesspool. When I see the amount of money going out the door to bullshit, and here I am begging, kicking, screaming for donations, it infuriates me. Yeah. So thank God I do the medicine and I meditate, because I'd be fucking hot, man. My vein on my temple would be out right now, but I have faith. Yeah, I have to, right? I believe in God. The Holy Spirit, whatever. I know whatever's supposed to happen is going to happen. But man, when you hear about another suicide, when you hear about another bro or sister checking out, oh, you know what? This just hit me that we have to talk about, since you and I talked. After the first time with Ibogaine and I healed, kicked over a rock. I talked to some former F-18 sisters. And they said, "Whiz, we'd love to heal our trauma." I'm like, "Yeah, this is what we do." And they're like, "Yeah, it ain't from the combat. It's from rape and sexual assault." MST, military sexual trauma. So you expect the enemy to shoot at you, to try and kill you. You don't expect your squadron mate to rape you. So we've helped women and, sadly, men in the past couple of years who have experienced MST. They were never even near the front lines. Never saw hostile combat, but it's almost worse that you get. So we've helped. We did an all ladies retreat out in Sedona. It was an Iboga retreat. So the ladies and men, but majority of the MST. I'm not going to use the word victims, because they've healed. MST survivors, or what's a better word? MST folks. Incredible healing with the medicine, to be able to sit in ceremony with a woman who on calls was like, I hope that guy burns in hell the rest of his life, to I love that guy and I send him peace and I forgive him. I'm like, fuck me, man. I mean, Jesus Christ, you can't even, it's insane. So it hurts when I see the government just spending money on bullshit when I know I could do something with it. It just, it hurts. But, you know, in my darkest moment, you know, I'll open my phone with my folder with the little case studies like a whiz. I don't want to kill myself. I'm like, keep going, dude. Get up.
Yeah.
Forward, right? Forward's the direction. Move. So I am. I'm just trying to move. But man, bro, I call it the world's greatest Ponzi scheme, or it's a reverse Ponzi scheme, because these folks heal, they get home, their family sees it, their brothers and sisters see it, and they're like, hey, what did you do? Well, I did this. And I hate talking like this. No Fallen Heroes is kind of a victim of our own success.
Yeah.
Because when they get home, you know, I did a retreat. He was a state trooper in North Dakota. He's like, Whiz, I just sent 4 guys your way. These guys are on the edge. And they all laughed at me like, you're going to do psychedelics 30-year long? He's like, you got 4 new applications. I'm like, great. I need more money. So I'm like, send them my way. And it sucks. So I think the American people are a little tired of the spending too, man, because it's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely insane to see all of the people in America talk shit about Elon Musk, for example.
He's the greatest entrepreneur in
literally
in like history.
The amount of impact that Elon Musk has created in the world is absolutely insane, right? You have SpaceX. He's doing more work than
He
NASA
rescued
is.
2 astronauts. I'm old enough to remember if we probably would have been in school watching this, like, hey, a citizen built his own rocket company to save people from a space station.
Yeah.
It would have been like national. Instead, people are out attacking his car dealerships or lighting cars on fire.
And then exactly. Then you have Tesla, which completely transformed the automotive industry. You have Solar City. Then
Starlink.
He's giving internet access to people in poverty all over the world.
And Ukraine. He's helping them target.
And then he literally is solely responsible for bringing back freedom of speech in America. Like, there's no way Trump wins that election without
Correct.
all of Musk's efforts. And on top of that, the guy's got 13 kids. And it's absolutely insane. And I think we're going to look back like 200-300 years and be like, holy shit, this guy was like one of the biggest legends of all time. Yep. It's crazy that so many people can't even just appreciate how much he's actually moved our society forward in a positive direction. Now, I know there's people that feel some type of way about like the Neuralink stuff. And like,
if he's helping paralyzed people walk or people lost their vision see, come on, man. I mean, but he is good too, because I saw him on some AI thing. When that guy gets a little worried about AI, that's, you know, when I fly with my kids and we're in turbulence and they look at me, I'm like, if you look at me and I'm sleeping or bored, you're fine. If I reach over and tighten your lap belts, be worried. When Elon starts getting a little worried about AI, I'm like, all right, now I'm gonna listen to this guy. But what an incredible entrepreneur. I'd keep track, I lost count of how many hit pieces there were on him about his alleged drug use. Like either talking about mushrooms or ketamine. I'm like, that's what they try and attack him on.
Yeah.
I'm like, maybe he's using that stuff to heal, and look at the results.
Maybe you should
do
actually
a positive
be curious.
piece. Exactly.
Same thing though. Like, so Elon Musk has been outspoken about using psychedelics. Then you have Sergey Brin, the founder of Google.
Brilliant.
Obviously, Steve Jobs, who built this,
Exactly.
you know, credits LSD for a bunch of his creative downloads.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, Joe Rogan, literally the most successful, innovative people in the world are tapping into this medicine. And I just hope that more people can open and expand their minds and their consciousness. And then also I want to talk about you and Susie doing a journey together, right?
We did.
Because I've said it before, I believe that every single married couple should do psychedelics or plant medicine together to expand their consciousness and expand their connection with one another. because what is it? Like almost 60% of marriages end in divorce.
Correct.
And a huge root cause of that separation is a lack of deep and meaningful connection and intimacy. And one of the beautiful things that plant medicine and mushrooms open up is this beautiful ability to just get out of your head and get into your heart and really see people fully and have that level of compassion.
Yep.
And when you bring that energy to an intimate relationship, there's so much more love and there's so much more alignment and there's so much more deep, meaningful connection.
Oh yeah. We've never been a better couple because as we talked about, the ego builds up, just the layers of funk and regret and shame and anger or alcohol or drugs. The medicine can dissolve all of that. So I saw her as the smoking hot 18-year-old, sophomore at Jacksonville University or something like that. It was a reset. It was I got my bride. That's why I call her my bride. It was on that journey, everything, all the shit and everything and paying the mortgage and shit, like you still got to do all that stuff, but it knocked all the funk off. It knocked away the cloud and the fog. Bro, I've been in this space for 4 years now. It's not happened with anybody. Every person we've helped, if it was couple issues, better than ever. I've only heard of one time out of maybe hundreds, if not thousands of stories of like somebody coming home like, we're not good together. But it turns out to be a victory because they're like, we are best friends. We were horrible husband and wife, but they are the happiest people in the world as best friends. It was like some institutional thing or something like that. So knock on wood, that was anecdotal. Yeah. Because I had to search. I'm like, I wonder if anybody's come home like, oh no, we're actually not. And I couldn't find anybody until somebody like told me that. Like, no, I only heard one time, maybe somebody. I'm like, all right. So I didn't even know if that's a fact. I can tell you with my experience, every one of those people have come home to a tighter relationship.
And more gratitude, right?
Oh my God.
Because I mean, you can speak to this as well, but like what I notice a lot in long-term relationships is the law of familiarity. So that same quality that you love so much in your partner early on in the relationship, you kind of get used to it and you stop appreciating it.
Correct.
And instead you focus your energy on their little quirks, the little things that trigger you, right? Rather than actually the positives.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things to work on. There's always going to be problems, but it's like, how can we actually take a step back and just be grateful for this person?
Yeah. The medicine gave me or re-gave me empathy to be able to put myself in her shoes. I had lost that for the longest time, right? Especially when I was in my, zero empathy. But to see her having raised 3 incredible children and do the work that she does as a woman, I think a woman is the most blessed. It's a portal, man. They deliver souls from God to the planet. It doesn't get any more spiritual than that. So it knocked all that off and it gave me room to be more empathetic and compassionate with her instead of like I'm the husband, you wife type of bullshit. It really is she's me and I'm her. It's that. It's called a holy relationship, actually, in A Course on Miracles.
You guys got a divine union.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Connected our hearts back together for the second half of our life. I mean, hopefully I live a long time, but, we peaked. I was spiraling the drain, got my shit together with the medicine, and man, dude, we're going to coast together. On one of my medicine experiences, she and I were together, and just these beautiful white lights were swirling around us as we ascended. So I got the sense that, it was just.
Have you journeyed with any of your kids?
No, well, Matthew's in the Air Guard, so he's out for a while, obviously. They know, obviously, they have knowledge. You'll appreciate this because you know Carcillo, but my kids grew up in Chicago, big Blackhawks fans. So when I met with Carcillo years ago at the resort for the first time, Susie's like, "Oh my God, you're meeting with Daniel Carcillo? We're gonna pretend to bump into you at the resort." I'm like, "He's pretty cool." So they come up and it's Matthew, Jack, Keely, and Susie, and they sit on the couch across from Daniel because we're still talking medicine stuff. And it's like The Sound of Music, like the Von Trapps. I don't know why they sat in that order, but anyway, we're talking medicine stuff, and Daniel's like, "Okay, cool." And then he looks at the kids, He looks at all them and he goes, so what do you think about your dad, after this medicine stuff? And I'll be honest, in the time it took for those words to go across that table to hit them, there was a little fear. Like, what do you think of your dad? I'm like,
Yeah.
And then there was silence. And I'm like, oh my God, nobody said a word except for my beautiful daughter, Keely. She said he's better. Said he's better. That's all I needed. That's all I needed. It was awesome. But there was a little worry there, right? I'm like, fuck. She said he's better.
It's amazing, bro. You're honestly, I think the world just needs way more men like you because one of the things that I admire most about you is just obviously the way that you serve for our country, but most importantly, the way that you show up as a husband, as a father, the impact you're creating in the world. There's very few examples in the world that actually embody that divine masculine energy of being purpose-driven, being successful in the material world, and also being such a powerful, present, loving husband and father. I
appreciate that, man. That makes my heart smile, especially coming from you.
And honestly, being a man who can like really access those emotions, by just being authentic. That's something that so many people lack, man, because especially as men, I feel like as men, the last decade, men have been told that if they're too emotional or they're too passionate or they're too confident, they're toxic. And then they've been told like, oh, if you cry, if you're sad, then you're a pussy. Exactly. So what's that done to men? A lot of men are just right here, right in the middle, completely numb to their emotions, completely emotionally detached from this human experience. And a big reason why is because of the programming that we've had and this agenda that's basically attacked masculinity. And I think you're a beautiful anecdote to that.
Oh, man, I appreciate that. It was not a straight line, right? There's a lot of scars. It never is, right? But I appreciate that, brother, especially coming from you with everything you do, man. With everything you just said, I hope, I give hope. Because, man, I was fucking robbing a village somewhere of an idiot. I just was not, healing is possible. I'm living proof of it. Healing is possible. And never forget this. You're perfect. You might not feel it. You might, but you are. Underneath all of this, God does not make imperfect things. And I always have to get back to that sometimes when I'm in it. Because I got my shitty days too, right? Everybody's got shitty days. But instead of being in shitty days now, I'm outside of them looking in. Yeah. When I was in my shitty days, man, I'm in it. And everybody around me, you're fucking in it too. Let's go. Not anymore, man. I can get out of this and go, dude, it's a shit sandwich. Eat it. Get some Tabasco sauce. It'll be over in a day or two. But old me, man, let's go to the bathroom, boys, or, some ugly shit. So healing is possible. And let me, radical trauma, in my opinion, might need radical healing. These medicines can be considered radical healing. Bro, I told you before, I found, when I was being a geographic bachelor down in Fort Lauderdale, I stumbled into yoga. I'm like, dude, if I saw me doing a downward dog, I would have kicked my own ass. But here I am. And I'm like, chicks do yoga. It can't be that hard. 30 minutes into a 60-minute vinyasa, I'm on my back, like having a heart attack as these girls are like laughing at me. I'm like, okay. So I found yoga, which helped. Yeah. And then one of the instructors was like, well, you do breath work, right? Or meditate. I'm like, what? So went to a meditation retreat up in Delray, actually. Great guy, Matt Cardone. So yoga, meditation, and then the medicine came into my life. So God had a really nice, because as you know, those two things are going to help. Those are a good preparation. For sure. Getting some yoga on, linking breath work with movement, being able to meditate, and then the medicine family. But let me put a bow on it. There are so many different healing modalities. Microdosing, walking on a beach, climbing a mountain in Nepal, or sitting with Ibogaine and for 12 to 14 hours and getting your ass kicked lovingly. So there are so many different healing modalities. And, one of those sentences you and I talked about earlier, the medicine calls to you.
Yeah.
So if you listen to any of this stuff and you're like, "Pfft," it's not calling to you.
Right.
If you're like, huh, it's calling to you. If you even get a little,
Yeah, just piquing that curiosity.
that's a call.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
Yeah.
Right. But if it doesn't, God bless you. I love you.
But
just
how
the same.
often we're honestly always getting calls, not necessarily for plant medicine, but like, you know, we're the creator's always trying to communicate to us, but oftentimes we have just become so disconnected from the creator, right? And we become so disconnected from our higher intelligence, which is just our intuition.
Correct.
And if you think about it, this is a huge part of the demonic agenda or the matrix, whatever you want to call it. They put fluoride in the water to calcify your third eye.
Yeah, correct.
They spray the soil with glyphosate to mess up the connection between your gut and your brain.
Mm-hmm.
All of these things in the environment are just designed to disconnect you from yourself
Separate,
and the connection to God. So we just need to reverse engineer and remove some of those blockages, remove some of those areas of interference so we can actually just remember who we are.
Correct. Tap back into that, right?
That's
just
it.
because you've forgotten who you are or you forgot about God or source for a little bit doesn't mean it's not there, right?
Yeah.
When I re-experienced God, and I remember going, where you been? And he said, Matthew, I have always been. Where have you been? And I was like, oh, man. He said it lovingly, but I was like, oh, you're right.
Yeah.
It was me. It ain't you. He's there right now. He's here with all of us, and it is. You choose to tap into that or not.
Yeah.
And every time you numb that with booze or with some drugs, you're clouding that signal, man. It's the old TV. You got to tune in to that God frequency, and he'll treat you right.
Well, alcohol is so interesting, right? Because alcohol is the only drug in the world where you're considered crazy for not doing it.
Yeah. Oh, what happened? Why
you
don't you
okay?
drink anymore?
Are you okay? Exactly. Come on. It's Friday night. This
Have
is
a
what
drink.
we do.
Yeah.
But it's, again, just part of the matrix and the demonic agenda that's designed to disconnect us. What does alcohol do, right? It's obviously negatively impacting the liver, which is responsible for anger, which is why so many people who have alcohol issues are also very fucking angry and aggressive.
Yeah.
Right? There's no coincidence. And then alcohol is
Correct.
also crossing the blood-brain barrier,
correct.
causing massive inflammation.
Ugh.
And we're still just making this stuff so easily accessible, and we're normalizing it, even glorifying it.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I enjoyed like my occasional drink with my friends. Like, it's a celebration of life when you drink with intention.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
like, how can we actually bring that ceremonial aspect to everything we do?
Correct.
Including having an occasional drink.
Yeah.
But it's usually, and this again is so ironic, it's usually the people who are so stuck in these societal norms that are so resistant towards psychedelics.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's why I think your voice is super important. You know, I think my voice is going to continue to be important, but also just different vehicles and vessels. That's why I told Jordan, I was like, bro, there's not a lot of people that look like you that are in your position.
True.
Like, we need you. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So yeah, man, like what right now are you most excited about, you know, in the near future for you, what you're building, what you're creating?
Finally, you know, last time you and I talked 3 or 4 years ago, whenever that was, we were having to sneak to Costa Rica, to Mexico, to Peru to heal our heroes. And that would infuriate me. I'm having to get on an airliner to leave this country to help heroes heal who incurred trauma serving it.
Yeah.
The fuck? Are you kidding me? So one of my main mission objectives was to heal our heroes at home. So thankfully, we are starting to do retreats in the United States. Oregon, Daniel's Place in Colorado, Experience Onward, Colorado, Arizona. We want to, when you have ceremonies down here, we'd love to start partnering. Oklahoma recently. So no more fleeing this country to heal. We should be doing it it right here, right? And it always reminds me of the harm to others, harm to you scale of things. Alcohol and tobacco up here, and psilocybin is all the way on the right side of the chart with almost no harm to yourself or others. And that's a felony, and alcohol and tobacco are legal. So there's a shift coming. I feel it, man. I feel this is a new age of Aquarius, I think we're in it, man. You and I we are on the leading edge of this thing. So I'm excited about that. But, as you and I were talking earlier, bro, until healing is really, really free with anybody, running a nonprofit sucks. I mean, I'm a fighter pilot. I'm fucking good at everything except asking for money or running, It's just, I thought people would be throwing money at a nonprofit for veterans doing psychedelics. It fucking sucks. Yeah. I'm glad I got to get you up. You got to come up to the airport. We have a fighter jet that we take donors flying in. And I thought that would be a good incentive, but it's a struggle, man.
We actually need to make that happen this time.
Let's do, yeah.
Like we should get on the calendar ASAP. Like today we should book a day, time.
Let's do it on a Friday, so you can do my podcast up in Boca, man. We'll debrief in your flight suit, and
is it Fridays?
That's usually better. That's like my foundation day. So yeah, Friday would be good. Let's do that.
It's interesting. I'm actually going to be in Boca for an event next Thursday night, and I'm staying the night there.
I think next Friday is open. Yeah, let's talk. Well, yeah. I love that. Well, I'll try not to make you pass out.
Well, now you're sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that's. Even having that as like a little nice donor bonus, it's a struggle, man. That's why earlier when we were talking about the government sending money to fucking Mozambique for, whatever, I'm like, are you serious, man? Are you shitting me? So it's a struggle trying to get either corporations or high net worth individuals or folks to donate. But again, in my low moments, I open my folder, I look at the text and I don't want to kill myself. I'm like, get up, dude. You knock on 100 doors, 3 of them are going to open. So, I'm used to getting calluses on my hand, but we'll get there, man.
I think this convo will also open up doors, and I think next week coming there, and then also I want to share with you some of the AI stuff because we can maybe implement some of that for the foundation as well.
I'll take all the help we can get, man. Absolutely.
And right now, you're someone that was fighting for freedom for 15 years, right? Your life was dedicated to that. And now I feel like this next chapter, you're also fighting for freedom in a different way. Like you're fighting for the collective consciousness because right now,
amen,
in our society, there's a war on consciousness, right? We are living in a world that is constantly trying to distract us and disconnect us.
Correct.
With social media, putting fluoride in water, all the harmful toxic ingredients in the food supply, glyphosate, porn, alcohol, the school system, mainstream media, jabs, like all of this stuff, right? So it's up to us to actually check in with ourselves, check in with our hearts, check in with our intuitions, realign to our highest self and use our sovereignty. Amen. And ask ourselves, hey, is this actually best for me? Is this best for my family?
Yeah.
And it's a reminder to just return back home to ourselves.
Aligned.
And become our own healers, become our own shamans.
Correct.
And fight for our freedom.
Yeah.
That's really what it comes down to.
Amen. If you lead with your heart and your truth, it is impossible to fail. You can't. If you are leading with your heart and your truth. So that's what I'm going to keep doing. Just leading with my heart and my truth, man. And I know everything's gonna fall into place.
Yeah. I'm excited to see how we can continue co-creating some impact together. Is there anything else that's kind of top of mind for you that you feel called to communicate or share?
No, just, I mean, like I said, if you can, nofallenheroes.com, $10, $25, $100, a monthly donation or something like that. All of it goes to retreats. I don't take a salary. I run my own financial company, so I put money into our foundation. So no worries about that. Throw a couple shekels. We actually have a wingman program too. So if you're a civilian and you'd like to go sit in ceremony, if you can sponsor a wingman, a vet, a first responder, or a family member, you can come as a civilian on one of our retreats.
Oh, that's amazing.
And to be able to sit in ceremony with some of those folks, and remember, don't trauma grade or trauma shame, because we do a shitty job of that in the military. I remember going with Marcus, like, this guy's seen like fucking real combat. I was in the air conditioning at 30,000 feet. I don't deserve to be here with these people. Don't trauma shame or trauma grade yourself. If something's hurting you, something's hurting you, and you deserve to heal. So yeah, so we got a wingman program. If you'd be up for sponsoring somebody, you can be a civilian and come on one of our retreats. So, but but before we sign off, I want to, because you're out of uniform right now, man. I want to give you some of our merch.
Damn.
So that's our, because you look more like a white type of hat guy, because I love your stuff. So that's our psychedelic fighter pilot right there.
Dude, this is sick, Whiz.
Yeah, and then you also get, what I'm wearing right here.
Dude, you know what would actually be awesome? I don't know if you've done this yet. For the ceremonies and journeys when people wear eye masks, to have that as like an eye mask.
That's a great idea. I didn't even think about that. That is a beautiful idea.
Let's fucking go.
And then where's the?
This is sick. Oh, dude, these shirts are so soft, bro.
Yeah, and then this is a big one.
Oh, bro, I'm about to.
So this is. So in the military, we coin. So here, put your hand out. This is what you do. So thank you for everything you're doing, and then that's like one of the highest honors I can get you. On the back is everything I did in the Navy, Top Gun, F-18, and then on the front is our psychedelic fighter pilot. So that's all my service stuff.
And if we want to get this stuff, where can we get it? Because I'd actually want to get one for.
Yeah, go to Get Maverick Mind. Is where you can get all this merch. We got hoodies on there and everything like that, and
take your shirt off, bro. We're doing it on the podcast.
Exactly.
I ain't wasting time. Oh, this is dope, bro.
Yeah, it's really cool. Psychedelic fighter pilot. There's my aviator's helmet, and then right in the visor there is our psychedelics and everything.
It's so soft.
Everything
it's like
we're
the
doing.
Good cotton material.
Yeah, it's nice. But yeah, bro, thanks for everything you're doing. I love being aligned with you, your mission, and all the folks you're helping to heal too. The world's going to be a better place,
How do I look, bro?
Now you're in uniform. Look at that.
Let me see. How do we look? All right. Fuck yeah. Okay, cool. No, Whiz, I appreciate you, man. And yeah, like I know we're both busy doing our own things, Boca, Miami, but like I have your back for life, bro. And
back at you. Absolutely.
Like whenever you wanna throw down and collab, I always want to support you and your mission.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's such an underserved market, and I'll never know what it's like to serve in the military and then try to reintegrate back into day-to-day life. And I can only imagine how challenging that experience is, especially when you have a wife and you have kids and you have a responsibility to also like provide for them. Like, making that transition just seems so challenging, especially when you don't have a support system that actually has your best interests in mind.
Correct. Well, in the military, what are you told? Suck it up, man. Don't tell anybody. Compartmentalize. Push all your issues down and press forward with the mission, right? Until all those little compartments open up one day, since you didn't heal with those things. So they call it compartmentalization. So if you and I were flying on a mission today and you got smoked, I can't stop in mid-flight and mourn you. I'll mourn him later. I got to press onto the target, and guess what happens when I land? I don't have time to mourn you. There's another mission. Oh, and somebody else just got killed. Oh, shit. So now all those...
just continues out.
Oh, man, it's a bunch of jack in the boxes, right? So you keep compartmentalizing all your crap, and then you're laying on the bathroom floor in Fort Lauderdale seconds away from, transitioning. But I'm here and survived, and I'm as we started, I'll end with this. I'm grateful for my suffering. If you can find some gratitude, if you're having a shitty day or something bad happened at work or whatever crap, if you can find gratitude in anything in that, you're making money. You're doing pretty damn good. When I have some shitty days now, instead of why me or God hates me, what is this trying to teach me? What am I supposed to learn from this? Which has completely shifted, 52 years of crap to, it's just, that little bit of a shift has really helped change my life.
It's one of the questions I'm learning to ask myself with everything that happens, both positive and, I don't even want to say negative. right?
Exactly.
It's all part of the human experience. But whenever I go through any sort of life event or experience, I just ask myself, why is this happening in my movie?
Yeah, there you go.
What's the lesson that's here to learn? Even when I just have an encounter with someone at Whole Foods or a coffee shop for 30 seconds, like, okay, what value can I extract from that interaction?
Correct.
And when we can approach life in that way, where literally every single moment has some sort of magic inside of it, it just makes life way more interesting. It makes life way more exciting. It's like, ooh, what adventure am I going on next?
Because there is no such thing as coincidence. That person you bumped into at the coffee shop, 30-second conversation, that was for a reason. There's something.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love when you live life in that way, like everything's a synchronicity.
Correct.
It's just a better way to live life.
Bro,
right?
What are the odds? What is it? 1 in 4 trillion?
Yeah, 4 trillion to 1. Being born a human being.
You mean sitting here right now? They think there's 2 trillion galaxies in our universe. The odds of you being alive is 1 in double the. We shouldn't be here. So if you do look at everything as a little bit of a miracle, life it gets a little brighter. If you look at everything as pretty shitty, it's going to be shitty, man. So manifest, put that energy out there. Like, wake up in the morning. Have a little gratitude. You woke up, you're in a bed. Maybe there was a roof over your head. Maybe there's a loved one with you or some kids, or you rolled over and you looked at a cell phone, man. Have gratitude for all of those little victories, man. If you have those things, you're doing better than 95% of the people on this planet. Find some gratitude in it, and it'll change your perspective.
Hell yeah. Guys, follow this man. All of the links, all of the stuff that we spoke about, the foundation. If you're interested in sponsoring a veteran, if you're interested in joining one of them on a journey, if you want to get some of this swaggy ass merch, hit the link in the description and make sure to connect with Whiz on Instagram. Shoot him a message. Get part of his community. And today was fucking fun, man.
I love you, bro.
Yeah, I love you too. I can't wait to continue the ride. And we'll do round 3 very soon.
Amen.
And stay tuned also for the content on the fighter jets. That's happening soon.
I may or may not try and make them black out. We'll see. Tune in for that.
I'm ready for it all. Much love, y'all. Peace.
See you guys.
You did it. You made it to the end of the show. Thank you so much for your time, your energy, your support in listening to this podcast. And really, my mission here is to deliver the best conversations, the best people, so you can continue elevating and becoming the best version of yourself. And all that I ask in return is that you actually take action on the things that we talk about in these conversations, whether it's certain habits to implement or certain thought patterns or belief systems that you want to reprogram and remove from your life. I just want to remind you that your life is your gift. And you are the creator. You are the main character of your movie. So please, please take action on these things we discuss. And tag me on social media. Tag me on Instagram in your stories at Jeremy Awakens. Let me know what stood out the most to you. Let me know what were some powerful moments for you from this conversation. And finally, if you haven't already done so, it would mean the world if you left a review for the podcast. Word of mouth is our oxygen. This is what allows us to reach more people and impact more lives. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you next time.